manipulated. There is a great Korean economist, Ha-Jun Chang, who has written a book called The Bad Samaritans. He tells us those who are donors, they call themselves donors and development partners, those are bad Samaritans. They prescribe poison for you while they eat nectar and honey. And Dambisa Moyo, the young Zambian economist, has told us why aid is a dangerous thing. So the colonization and the burden under which we labor today is very subtle colonization. Sometimes it's not even so subtle. Remember, the French, for example, still controlled the currency of their former colonies. Remember that the organizations which are created in the post-colonial era are designed to achieve that very thing. So we are still colonized. And our presidents sometimes are merely doing the bidding of the colonizers. It's never lost on me, for example, in the United Kingdom, and I have never understood this. When we are approaching an election, the leading presidential candidates are invited to a place called Chatham, and they are debating. It happened with Kenya in the run-up to the elections in 2022. It happened in Nigeria. I hope it will not happen in the case of Ghana and in the case of Zimbabwe. But it is a statement. You young boys, you are going to engage in what in our mind is essentially the appointment of a school head prefect or head girl. We want to assess how you debate and how you will behave when you ultimately become the head boy and the head girl. They don't say it in such crude terms, but I believe that that is what it is all about. Then they invite you to a program called Hard Talk to ask you difficult questions to see whether you can withstand. We are still colonized. It's painful. Trade, not aid. That is what is sustainable. There are early stages, and it cannot be discounted that there are mutual interactions which are desirable. We live in a world, so Africa is not just about to isolate herself, but we must be very wary of how we structure those engagements. Because when the Chinese or indeed any other power comes to Africa or goes anywhere, they do it in a manner that will be in their best interest, and I have no problem with that. The problem with Africa is that we don't define our interests. We are quick to sign on the dotted lines. We must not. We must interrogate the thing that we sign. We must debate. Right now, you may know what is happening in Botswana and in Namibia. They have had a mining agreement with De Beers, where De Beers has been taking 50% of the proceeds of the mining sector. And they are negotiating. And in my view, they should be demanding 80%, not 50%. The same thing with Namibia. Has it happened before? Yes, it happened. The former president of Tanzania, John Joseph Pombe Magufuli, told Barrick and Acacia, you have not paid taxes for so many years, pay the tax. Barrick, we are entering into an agreement with you. We know we don't have the technology. We want transfer of technology, and we want the share of the proceeds to increase. And it happened. It can be done. If you are a poor negotiator, you'll be manipulated. So the time has also come for we who are Africans to stop constantly blaming others. We have seen countries which after independence through enlightened leadership have done the right thing. Singapore, a little country with no more than 2 million people under the leadership of Lee Kuan Yew and his compatriots, did a good thing. Even in the Arab world, in the Emiratis, Qatar. The problem of Africa partly is that we are very bad political leaders. Terrible political leaders, people who don't care for their countries. And it is political bad manners and their thirst and hunger for primitive accumulation and theft on an industrial scale that sometimes undermine the continent of Africa. So the first thing that we must do is to be very clear about the men and women that we give the opportunity to serve us. It all starts from the top. If the head
The recording has stopped.
Thank you very much for that interesting speech. I'm sure we have indeed learned quite a lot from that. For those of you that are asking, yes, it should be a technical issue, but it will be addressed very soon. So as we've heard from Professor, he has indeed talked about the essential of human development in creating a man and a woman who is an agent of change. Usually when we talk about development, we talk of the GDP, but we have to also look at the growth of our human development. So that speech was titled Underdevelopment of Africa and What Can Be Done. In the Yes, I saw a hand up. I see we have Comrade Kinyas Mulonda in the audience. Comrades, please feel free to speak. Okay, I see. Yes, proceed. Yes, comrade, we can hear you.
Rightly, so if you could repeat what you said.
Yes, I had seen a hand up. I also see a hand from Christian, Comrade Christian. So I saw a hand up and assumed you were commenting on the speech on the underdevelopment of Africa and what can be done based on the speech. I see Comrade Christian, your hand is up as well. Please proceed.
Okay. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, comrade.
Right. My name is Christian Abdulwataka from Ghana. Actually, my view is that we've noticed that we always speak that we think we are having bad leaders, we're having bad leaders. But most of these leaders, we are the ones who choose them. Some youth from African countries prefer leaders who will give them some form of money, small monies, and then they vote for them. Our market women, mothers, and fathers who are illiterate also follows most of these politicians. How do we sensitize people? Some of the measures we can put in place in order for us to hold them accountable and make sure we elect responsible leaders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade. Of course, you were breaking a little bit, but if I heard you correctly, you spoke on how majority of the voters, or at least our local or average citizen, is, for lack of a better word, illiterate, and the measures that we can put in place to make sure we elect capable leaders. Is that so?
Yes.
Okay, I'll jot that down. So we're going to have a questions and answers session towards the end, and we will jot that down. So rest assured, you will get a response to that question. Thank you very much, Comrade Christian. I've also seen a hand from Comrade Stefan. Please feel free to ask, followed by Comrade Anthony.
Okay, so let me say good morning to everyone. I'm from Liberia. I'm Stephen S. Akwe from Liberia, Monrovia. I listened to our mentor, P.L.O. Lumumba. He spoke excellently. And my question here is that how can we citizens fight against bad governances where those who are in position of power have the financial strength to cajole the massive to vote them, even if they are not qualified? How can we do this?
All right, thank you very much, Comrade. That question has been noted. I will now proceed to ask Comrade Anthony to proceed with his question, suggestion, and/or opinion, followed by Comrade James. Thank you very much, Comrade Stephen. That has been noted.
Yeah, thank you so much, Comrade Mona Lisa, and revolutionary greetings to you all, comrades. My name is Anthony Chibesakun Namlengam Senkwere, known as the African Child. I'm the Deputy Country Coordinator of the P.O. Lumumba Foundation Zambian chapter. And mine is rather just a comment and not necessarily a question. And I just wanted to add one or two words on what the chairman presented in the video that was played. So when you look at development, like the chairman was saying, in Africa, we are relying so much on economic development to come from our leaders. And then the other thing that we forget is that in most cases, our leaders care only for themselves. So it is high time, as young people, as young revolutionaries, we changed our mindsets. And even those that are in education, we need to understand that education should not be a tool that we should use so that we look for employment, but instead we should use education so that we can change our mindsets. And as we go into society after education, we are able to come up with ideas that can bring about economic development. I think it should be Nelson Mandela who said, or I've forgotten the name to say, it is not what the nation can do for you, but it is what you can do for the nation. And mine, I think that is the spirit that as young people, we should be moving with, so that on a daily basis, we should be thinking about what we can do for our mother continent, Africa. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Anthony, for that. I definitely understand where you're coming from, and the need for changing our mindset is very critical. As you said, education should not be just a tool for employment, rather for change. Thank you very much for that. I'm sure that resonates with all of us here, especially now that we're looking towards finding solutions that are African-centered. towards economic development. Thank you very much, Comrade Anthony. That is very much noted. So for now, let us hear from Comrade James Oyo. Please proceed. We can make it brief, followed by Comrade Kwajo. Then we take a break so that we can hear from the rest of our speakers. Thank you very much. Comrade James, please proceed.
Thank you very much. And I just want to contribute. It is not a question, but a contribution comment to what has been said and what what discussion is at hand. So my name is James Soyo from Kenya, currently a student at University of Machakos in Kenya. So my contribution is that when we talk of development in Africa, we should first redefine what development is in this circumstance, because I see we keep on complaining about poor and bad leadership. But what we should be complaining about is the source, because leadership comes from that privilege comes from the citizens. So the citizens should develop their minds also. As we talk of physical, geographical, economical development, we should also talk about our mind development, because when we are electing our leaders, we should consider several factors, because Africa, as I know, Africans,
Oh, I'm sorry.
ethnicity. So, okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry, we had lost you for a minute. I believe it was a technical issue. We had lost you for a minute, but that is definitely a credible addition to the conversation. In the interest of time, I'll ask the rest of the comrades that have their hands raised to make use of the chat box. You can type your comment and or question in the chat box, and we will read them out during the Q&A so that we proceed to the second speaker. Thank you very much, Comrade James. Please proceed to write the comment in the chat box, and we'll provide more time for questions and answers towards the end of the session. Thank you very much. Apologies for that. Thank you.
Okay,
so as we proceed,
thank you.
Let us now hear from our second speaker. As we've said, she wears many hats: a consultant, a mentor, founder, and president of multiple initiatives. Let me take this moment to call upon the revolutionary Dr. Susan Tata. Doctor, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Greetings. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Can you see me? I don't think. All right. Wait. Can you see me now?
Yes.
Am I audible enough?
Yes, please.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Sister Monica. Thank you, Chairman Mona Lisa. I always call you Monica. Don't worry. Thank you, Chairman Razak, and thank you, comrades, and all of you that are watching us for this special invitation. I mean, we are not new here on this platform. We do know. I want to also welcome my champion, Usman Toure, who is also here, and the other speakers that will be joining us. So today we say Happy PLO Africa Day. So in my dialect, we say PLO Africa, oye, oye, oye. So As you all have already heard from Mona Lisa, she said I put on a lot of hats, but it's not the first time that we are seeing ourselves here. We are literally all of us very new, not new to each other on this platform. So I want to thank all of you that have been following the PLO conversations, what Professor has been teaching us for more than decades right now. Of course, even though we got to start knowing him recently. I also want to thank the foundation and the coordinators for putting up the spirit that we meet every day to celebrate the spirit of Pan-Africanism. So I will just go directly into the topic, but before that, I want to make a small reference. When you listen to the video that Professor said, he mentioned the situation in Southern Cameroon, and he talked about it, and he mentioned it as Ambazonia. So because most people just know we're from Cameroon, and how is Cameroon made, and why Southern Cameroon, and why Ambazonia. I want to stress on this point because I am an Ambazonia. I am a Bamenda girl. I am origin from Cameroon, but I am a Southern Cameroonian and an Ambazonian. Why Ambazonian? Because it is the original Bantu name of Cameroon, and particularly what is today called the Southern Cameroons. I will really call upon you to check it up to find out. Just type in Bamenda, and then you will see that. So Cameroon is the colonial name that was given by the Portuguese when they first arrived the coast of Cameroon, right? And so they said what they discovered in the eastern region of Cameroon are big fat prawns, the crowns that are like, like crayfish, but the bigger ones, they call it the gambas, right? Because Cameroon has a river that is so rich with those prawns. So these explorers, as they call themselves, which we now know were colonizers that were looking for territories to occupy, were looking for places where they can get cheap labor and get even resources for free. So when they arrived at this river, they saw these big prawns, and they called it in the Portuguese as camaros. So they named it the Rio de Camaros. And that's why Cameroon is called Cameroon today. So like literally Cameroon is the prawns or the black shrimps, as we call it. So we have to be very careful because we're talking about Pan-Africanism today. And we're talking about the new dawn of Africa. So to understand Pan-Africanism and to be able to implement it in the way it is, we have to be able to call it the way it is, to call our countries, our continent through its original names. That's the first message and the first point of decolonization. Then we can understand, what we mean by the new dawn of Africa. So I come from Bamenda, from Southern Cameroon, and from Cameroon as the colonial region, just for you to understand. And if you go into the history of that, most people say Cameroonians are in conflicts today because of the Anglophones. Anglophones mean the English-speaking region, and the Francophones, which are the French-speaking region. So the question is always for you young people, how you define yourself is how you see Africa. So we refuse to be defined as Anglophones or Francophones, because Anglophones was the Southern British, the colonialists that came from British, and they named that region Southern British Colonial Cameroon. And then the French, which came from France, named the La République de Cameroon now as Francophones. Francophones mean the language of French that they speak. And Anglophone means the English language that is spoken in this region. So to be able to understand and to decolonize Africa, we must start by renaming, by understanding our origins, our original names. Without that, we can talk politics and do anything. It's not going to change. I give you an example. If you don't know your name, even know you are a about, are we still connected right here? Are we still connected?
Yes, yes, we are.
Okay, because I just saw some message, a blackout message on my, okay. Thank you so very much, Mona Lisa. So my topic today, I will keep it really short, and please, moderators, make sure that you keep me on time, because as you see, you've seen from the lectures of Prof, true Pan-Africanism, we do not read lectures. We do not even research what we come to teach you or to mentor you or to tell you or to celebrate this unique day. We just speak from our heart. And because, of course, we know who we are. So we don't need to go and research and do some readings to come and lecture you here about some big terms that are going to drive you crazy. So I'm really going to keep it short. My topic today is going to focus on the new dawn of Africa, PLO Africa Day. How does Pan-Africanism affects your individual lives? Because what we see, we have the big template, which is the template of divide and rule, which is the colonial template. But now redefining the new dawn of Africa, we are redefining the template with which we need to be addressed. Like I said, starting from our names, starting from the names of our own countries, and originally who we were. Without this decolonization process, you will not even be able to enjoy the new dawn, the opportunities, okay? The privileges that you as the owner of the continent would enjoy. And so I want us to listen carefully that Pan-Africanism, this word, is not a political term only. That is why in the lectures of Prof, he talked about GDP. That's a political term. Of course, to understand the economics behind every production, the export and the import, and the totality per income, per person, per head, you have to talk about the GDP. Of course, right? But now I want to take you deeper to understand before you get to GDP, before you get to colonial divide, before you get to all this big template. Who are you and what is your benefit to get to the GDP? So I want to tell you how Pan-Africanism and the unity of Africa and the new dawn of Africa gives you the opportunity and the privileges to be a part of the national cake of the continent, to be a part of the resources, to be the part of the businesses, to be the part. If you are only following Pan-African leaders as clappers, as flag wavers, as carrying the names of institutions, without able to feed yourself, to feed your families, to create income for yourself, without being able to create a job for yourself, to be able to sustain your life, then you have to reconsider after this conversation of today. So the new dawn of Pan-Africanism and Africa gives you the privilege to understand how am I being the new process in the Pan-Africanism, in the unity of Africa. So once you get this clear, then you can be able to be a part of Pan-Africanism. Then you will be able to build, to think like an entrepreneur, like a Pan-Africanist that knows what he is doing, not just following political leaders and their agendas, but really asking yourself, what is in there for me as an African? So that is what the decolonization and the new dawn of Africa is all about. Prof talked about the Sahel, and particularly we are faced with a plate of Ibrahim Traore. Now, this is the template of the new Africa of the youth, of all of you that are following. Someone who stands and said, what is in this for me? What is in this for my people? What is in this for the entire continent? If you don't define these three sectors, what is in there for you? What is in there for your people? what is in there for your continent. These three, as I can say, crossroads or template is what is going to make you be able to stand somewhere, anywhere in the world and said, I am a Pan-Africanist. These are the values that would make you trust the values of Pan-Africanism. So let's go. If you don't understand the vision of the founding fathers and parents of Pan-African, the founding fathers and parents and mothers, whatever, of Pan-Africanism, of the unity of the African, then you have to revisit the board to study when the OAU was founded, who were the founders, what were the goals that they set on the ground for Pan-Africanism. Those are your Bibles from today. And when you're reading, you're not reading as a theory. You're reading and engaging yourself into it as if you were that, as if you were Dr. Kwame Nkrumah right now, as if you were Patrice Lumumba, as if you were Sankara, as if you were Ibrahim Traore, as if you are PLO, Professor PLO Lumumba. If you don't, as if you were Dr. Susan Tata, as if you were Usman Toure, as if you are Mona Lisa, and Comrade Razak. If you don't see yourselves in those templates of today and ask yourself, what is in there for me? Then you have a lot to go. And of course, we are here to back you and also to direct you on that. So having said that, I want us to always, when you start your day as a Pan-African, to make sure you say a credo. A credo is like a prayer, what others say. Muslim, they call it their meditation. Pan-Africanists, they call it, Christians, they call it prayers. We African spiritualists, we call it libation, or what you ask the universe, your ancestors, to give back to you as a child, as a son, as a daughter of Africa. That's how you start your day, every day. Like the Christians would pray in the morning. When they come back, they pray before to go to bed. Like the Muslims would pray when they fast and all that. Pan-Africanist has to develop that concept of staying in a structure that actually gives you the attention and the focus of what you need on a daily basis. That's how you become a leader. That's how you become an entrepreneur. That's how you become a businessman. That's how you become a leader for your people and for the world. Without getting a vision every day that you do, without getting a vision every day, you're going to be confused. So you need to be disciplined. Rule number one, to become an entrepreneur, you have to be disciplined. I teach my kids every day. If you cannot make up your bed every morning, you cannot be an entrepreneur. But some people think it's just the values of life, or just being neat, or just be taking care of your house. No, that's a whole business strategy. That's a whole business strategy. I can break it down to you, but that's a topic for other days when we have to, if you're interested in my consultancy or my mentorship on how you can become, an entrepreneur or what you aspire for your life, I can do a one-on-one on you, or we can book other sessions on that. But those are the basic things that keep you into structure and focus. When I wake up every morning, I fix my bed. Doesn't matter whether I don't have something to do. I just have to do it. And it becomes an attitude. So it's the same thing every day when you wake up. Once you make up your bed, so you make a decision in your life. Okay? So being that entrepreneur like we see Professor teaching us every day. Discipline, consequential, doing the same thing, never changing. That's rule number two. As an entrepreneur, as a Pan-Africanist, you have a focus that you do every day. It becomes a ritual. We call it a ritual. When you hear ritual, and that's why language is very key to Pan-Africanism. That's why I started by asking you to define yourself. When you define yourself, you know who you are. Then you know your language. Why? Because Exactly. That's where you're going to. Once you know your discipline, you act on it. I'm telling you about practical Pan-African stuff, not just big lectures. You see from your mentor and your leader and the president of Africa, you choose a one subject that is relevant to you. Do you want to be a businessman? Do you want to be an entrepreneur? Do you want to be anything that you're passionate about? And you stick to that one thing and you do it every day. So it becomes your prayer and a ritual for you. Like I said, you wake up in the morning, you make your bed. So it's a ritual, it's a prayer. Now, I am an entrepreneur, so I make sure I stick on my link, on my focus every day. I do it. I do just one thing. Don't choose 2, 3 things. Choose one. Do I want to sell? Probably, maybe just a product. Take anything. And every day I want to do just that one thing because this is my Pan-African way of putting in the work every day. There is no way, I guarantee you, my dear Pan-Africanists, whether old or senior or children, there is no way you stick to one thing, do it every day at a certain rhythm, give yourself 6 months, latest, you are going to be that. So as we celebrate the Africa Day, the PLO Africa Day, I want to motivate you to be disciplined. I want to motivate you to continue to follow professors' mentoring program. Watch the videos every day. Post on your own individual pages. Once you listen to his lectures every day, you follow us on our events, those that are talking to you, and follow the things that we do with your own passion, with your own vision for Africa, with your own, input for Africa. There is no way you cannot benefit from the resources that belongs to you. And that's the only way that you can wave and say, I am a Pan-Africanist. I am an African. I am a development expert. I am a leader. Because first, you need to be satisfied. You need to be comfortable. You need to be able to sustain your life. Then you can wave the flag of Pan-Africanism. I thank you very much. I look forward if you have some questions or something like that, because my time is up right now. But I want to thank all of you. And just to remind you that we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of International Africa Festival Umoja. It is in 2 weeks today. Please, those of you that are following me, either on my private account or on Dr. Susan Tata or on Pan-African Daily TV, Facebook page, or we posting the flyer. All you need to do is just download that flyer and post it on your page. That's all I can wish from you. It is not about me, it's about communication. Whether you are on the continent or anywhere in your villages, please just post the flyer. I'm going to send it to Monica right here. It's a poster. You post it on your platforms. If you have relatives in Germany or in Europe, tag them to meet us in Tübingen, Germany, as we celebrate the 25th anniversary of Umoja. And Umoja is unity for Africa. Thank you. I bless you today, and I look up. If you have a question, I'll be here for a while. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Susan. That was indeed a new dawn of Africa, very revolutionary ideas. I agree with embracing the originality of our names. We have been taught that names carry power. And so this has certified that. As you have mentioned, we have been challenged to start our day with a ritual or a prayer, if others would rather call it so, because it definitely instills a sense of discipline, and that discipline is how we tend to grow. Thank you very much, Dr. Susan. So I see a number of people had commented. Unfortunately, the comments were going to my direct account, so I will just share them with the group. We will take questions. Once again, feel free to use the chat box. Paste your questions there. If anyone would like to ask questions, all right, I see 2 hands already. So we have Comrade Mulonda and Comrade Kwajo. Please feel free. We start with you, Comrade Mulonda, and then Comrade Kwajo. For those of us that are comfortable using the chat box, please feel free. All right, so we'll take 3 questions or comments. We'll also take one from Comrade Anthony since his hand is raised. Thank you very much. Please proceed, Comrade Mulonda. Comrade, we're unable to hear you. Okay, feel free to type in the chat box. So in the meantime, we'll proceed with Comrade Kwajo. Comrade, proceed. Sorry about that, Comrade Mulonda. Let me do so. Please proceed.
Thank you so much. I hope I'm enough now.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Dr. Susan Tata, thank you so much for that presentation on the originality of Pan-Africanism and, of course, of the necessity of us young people to start decolonizing our minds by calling our nationalities by their original name. So my question really is predicated upon opportunities. My question is, what are some of the economic opportunities for being an African or perhaps a Pan-Africanist? And how do you encourage somebody who view volunteerism as an avenue to becoming a Pan-Africanist, of course, with a view of expecting something in return? Thank you so much, Dr. Susan Tata.
Can I go ahead, or you want to take all the questions, Mona Lisa?
You can go ahead and respond, Doctor.
Okay. Thank you so very much. I think everything starts with the mindset. Like I said, you see, there are all the brands in the world today are focusing on Pan-Africanism and African unity. For instance, whether you come up with anything that promotes the mindset and the ideologies of Pan-Africanism, you're already in business. And the most important thing is for you to always look at the timing. Why do we say a new dawn? Why is it a new dawn? So once you understand the time in which you are and say, this is my time as an African, I think the first lectures that I used to do with you, I say, you can sell even dust. You can sell African dust, our yellow dust. We have it in pharmacies here from other countries. And I never knew that. And this dust is free. You can sell leaves. You can sell anything, but you need to understand the background of Pan-Africanism. And that's why Pan-Africanism, like I said, if we define it only in a political context, it's difficult for you to get a product to sell on Pan-Africanism. For instance, lectures is a product to sell. Talking about African mindset is a product to sell. Every single thing, music, anything in this industry, Africa is the #1 hottest continent right now. In every aspect, you just need to, first of all, understand you. Once you understand you, you can sell anything. We are still stuck in the colonial mentalities. That's the reason. Even as we talked about today, we talked about our names. Honestly, you can be a lecturer only on this. You can sell anything. So far as you are African, the world is really ready to buy anything Africa right now as we speak. But you have to understand, why am I doing this right now? Who are the people I'm selling to? Look, we Pan-Africans now, we are millions in the world today. Before, it was not. Before, if you don't come to Europe, you are not better. But now look at somebody like Usman Toure that will be addressing you today that said, no, I choose the African model. And he's a celebrity. He's most sorted today. He's a brand, as I can say. So even just your belief and you changing your narrative of saying, I am African, I know who I am, and now it's a brand already. So, but detailedly to go about that, I think we'll actually need a business plan for what you want to do. Those, I think I answer one question on everything. Like you say, what are my benefits? Look at today. Today, like us, you would not have known me, right? But if I'm booked today as a keynote speaker or as a revolutionary like Mona Lisa and all of you, my comrades, are saying, it's because I stood for a purpose. I stood for an ideology. Professor Pierre Lumumba is the most strongest person on the world today in terms of Pan-Africanism. Google everywhere, you would see it. He's the most powerful teacher as we speak today. And he's the most sought after. All right? What is the most sought after? So look at Professor PLO as a brand. And if they ask you to pay for that brand, how much can you pay? You know, his lectures and everything. So Pan-Africanism and making money out of Pan-Africanism, there's no better way and no better time like now. Anything, it just depends on your mission and your business strategy. But like I said, I do business consulting. And what is it that you want to push it out there? If you want to better your individual lives, because until we are comfortable collectively or individually, then Pan-Africanism makes sense. You know why I say so? Because there's that mentality that Pan-Africanism is for poor people. It's for people who don't have. You know, they are rioters, you know, youths who don't have anything to do with their business, with their lives. That's why they are going around, you know, causing trouble. They're going around, you know, doing this. It's a fat lie. The people who are doing this are making billions and chunks of billions on Pan-Africanism. I know it. We are in the global platform. So when you know what you want, you set up anything for yourself as an entrepreneur, as a business, as a leader. I'm telling you, you're everywhere. I also started my platforms. I'm a non-charity. I'm a charity platform and everything, but it's now a global brand. Whether I like it or not, the world has seized it from my hands. The millions of followers that I have on Pan-African Daily, I don't even go there anymore. The Africa Festival Umoja that I'm doing is thousands of millions of people that know about it, even if they're not present because of COVID. But that's a brand. Why? Because I stick to who I am unapologetically. So Pan-Africanism and Africa Unity is a brand. You can do business now in every continent on it. As a Pan-African, it's a brand. You just stand up and say, I'm a Pan-Africanist. Just you saying I'm a Pan-Africanist is enough to be in business. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that response. And so we'll proceed with the next question from Comrade Anthony. Comrade, please proceed.
Thank you so much, Comrade Mona Lisa. And my question to Dr. Tata is just a very simple question. You mentioned about mentorship. I wanted to find out the mentorship that you talked about, the one-on-one mentorship. Is it, do you charge, or are there free slots available where you can mentor someone for free of charge so that they can be able to also define themselves? Because you mentioned that how you define yourself is how you see Africa. So I wanted to find out about that.
Thank you very much, Anthony. That's a very good question. And yes, of course, you can, I do one-on-one. I never did it, but I'm launching to start doing it. Of course, mentorship, how does it go? These are two things. I'm really going to be short because of time. We have mentorship, which is like counseling as well. But of course, we do have consultation. That is business. Mentorship is non-profit. And that's how my organization, the Africa We Want, is a non-profit, but with two sectors. So you have the business sector and you have the non-profit sector. So when I do mentorship, I do it for non-profit. And when it comes now for you to develop a business or a plan for you, of course, I charge. Not just only because of money, because you're going to be a business person, and business people don't do things only for free. But I can mentor you on how first you get to that position before you decide what you want to do for yourself, depending on really the time slot and everything that I have. But we work together with the PLO Lumumba Foundation, please. So any questions that you have for Pan African Daily or Dr. Susan Tata, please channel it on that, because if I have sessions like we'll be going up or the future consultation or stuff, you would get all that. But if you follow us on PLO Lumumba Foundation, all these questions would be answered to you, if not directly through the PLO Lumumba Foundation. Yes, I do that. So one more question, please. I'll take just one for now, and that will be it. Or if not, we can still do other questions and answer. But I think I really have to give this the space for others. Mona Lisa, are you with me?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, in the interest of time, we are going to look at the next few questions soon, as we are slotted for a brief documentary. Comrade Razak, so Dr. Tata
Yes,
will
Comrade
be right
Melissa.
back. We'll have the questions and answers, and we have shared some of the pages where they can reach out to you directly. And it seems there are a number of people that would like you to dive deep into this conversation. So
Oh,
we'll definitely,
that is
yes,
beautiful. You can share my contact. You have my
indeed.
email and my WhatsApp. And if anything is coming up, I would definitely. There's a lot. There are thousands waiting, even in the diaspora, for this opportunity. But like I said, now we are first of all celebrating. After celebrating,
Right.
we're going to officially launch, the consultant and mentorship programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And in this moment, we'll definitely give you a round of applause for that very engaging conversation that we've just had. So, moving forward, Comrade Razak, are you with us?
Yes, Comrade Mona Lisa. I
Okay.
want to suggest that due to the fact that we have two other speakers awaiting, maybe we can proceed with the speakers' addresses. Then we will have the documentary afterwards before the general question and answers.
Okay, that is well understood. So, moving forward, we are now going to engage with our next speaker. Once again, feel free to ask, suggest, and give your opinions in the chat box. For those of you that are following us online on our platforms, either on the Pan African Daily TV or the PLO Foundation, feel free to use the comment box to leave your suggestions, questions, and opinions. Moving forward, our third speaker, as we had mentioned earlier, is the esteemed Chima Christian. Let me pass the mic to you, comrade. Please feel free to address our audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on your time zone. My name, as has been introduced, is Chima Christian. Let me start by acknowledging a very, very respected Professor Lumumba, who has, as you would all know, inspired a lot of change in Africa, who is that
Okay, I think we have lost Comrade Chima a bit. So Mona Lisa, maybe we can take one more question whilst Comrade Chima works on his network. So I want to give the opportunity to Comrade Oransi Jacobs. Yes, he was finding it challenging to use the React button, but I saw his video and the hand was up for a longer period. So Comrade Oransi Jacobs, kindly proceed with your question. Please unmute. Yes, you can go ahead.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Oranse Jacobs. I do join this conversation from Liberia. I think my question was asked already. I wanted to know how mentorship would be, done off. I mean, run to someone who is in need of the mentorship, but she asked the questions. I mean, someone earlier on asked a question and then she answered the questions. So I don't know. My concern is that how can one get in contact with her or be connected with her for a mentorship? But I'm trying to join the WhatsApp group. I find it difficult to join the link that they posted in the chat room. So that was my concern. I'm questioning why it was asked already.
All right. So once we are done with the event, we will work on the WhatsApp platform.
Mm-hmm.
You have to accept the request once you click on the link.
Yeah.
So once the event is over, we will accept all the requests.
Okay, then.
From members to join the platform.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
Mona
you very
Lisa,
much, Comrade Razak.
is Comrade Chima set?
Once again, for those of you that are joining us, we are celebrating, reconnecting, reflecting on the PLO Africa Day. So the PLO Lumumba Foundation is celebrating Africa Day today, and we have a great lineup of speakers. We have the keynote speaker himself, Professor Lumumba. We have the revolutionary leader, Dr. Susan Tata. We have Comrade Chima Christian and Comrade Osman Toure, who are yet to give us an address. In the interest of time, we have a documentary that we're going to share with those of you that are with us currently. Please feel free to follow our Facebook page. That is the PLO Lumumba Foundation on Facebook, and the Pan-African Daily TV. And our speakers, their pages are as their names are presented. So now we're going to hear from our third speaker, that is the esteemed Chima Christian, who is a development professional with a focus on public policy and good governance. Mr. Chima, please feel free to address the audience. Thank you very much.
Oh, perfect. I'm now able to mute myself. Thank you so very much for the incredible opportunity, and apologies for earlier. Like has been introduced, my name is Chima. I acknowledge every resource person here. I acknowledge our revered PLO, who continues to inspire us. I've been asked to talk about restructuring Africa's governance systems via Pan-Africanism. Restructuring Africa's governance systems via Pan-Africanism. And by way of introduction, some of the things I'll be saying are not new to some of us here. Some of them we have deeply considered. Some of them we have not given really a thought about it. But it's all welcome that in a platform like this, we have to throw around ideas that challenges some assumptions we've always had. So when we talk about restructuring Africa's systems, I want to first deal with form of government. And after that, I intend to speak about administrative structure of the entities within the system. And then I want to conclude by insisting that my generation, our version of the generation, must win. And that will be it. So let's start by dealing with the form of government. Africa's history did not start in the 1850s. Africa's history did not start in the 1900s. Africa has always been a continent. When you look at civilizations, you will know that Africa has had ancient civilization, Africa as a whole, and in some cases, Africa in parts. Before we talked about colonization, Africans used to live, they had administrative structures, they had governance structures, and no matter how imperfect you might think of them to be, it was working for them. Now, the point I intend to raise is not to drag us back to old ways of doing things or to say, oh, the past was better. But I intend to say that we must critique and own our own assumptions. First, what is the promise of democracy in Africa? Because we are dealing with form of government. We've been told that democracy is the best form of government. The question is, for who? The democracy in Africa, is it delivering on its promise? The democracy we've told to fight, to protect, to champion, as exemplified by totems, maybe periodic elections, and we are told that we have liberty to choose. And that liberty is one of the things we want to critique and ask, are we really enjoying the promise of democracy? So if you look back over the past 70 years, and you look at Asia, you look at the Middle East, and you look at indeed all parts of the global South, and you ask yourself, which part of the global South has made the most advancement in the last 70 years? And what were the assumptions that helped them to make those advancements? And so for countries like Nigeria and Cameroon and many other African nations, we are told that we have democracy, the freedom to choose. And we've made those choices. Our parents voted in 1999. I'm talking about Nigeria. It was repeated in 2003. It was repeated in 2007. There was another election in 2015. There was another in 2019. There was another in 2023. So we've had about 6 to 7 elections between 1999 and now that produced about 4 different presidents. The question, has these elections produced the dividend of democracy? What was life like in 1999 when we started voting? And what is it like now? Compare that to China in 1999 and compare that to now. Compare that to Saudi Arabia in 1999, compare that to now. Compare that to any country in the Middle East. And so if you read Paul Collier in his seminal work, Wars, Guns, and Votes, he indeed said that for democracy to work, that there are basic preconditions that must be met before democracy can work for any nation, including for Africans. First is the buying power of the people. And second is the literacy rate. For someone who has not gone to school, who has not been taught to think enough on his own, he will always imperil those choices you've given him. And we have seen this in multiple places across Africa, where voters vote in a way that is anti their objective. Then he talked about economic emancipation. Where economic emancipation has not been achieved, political emancipation will always go back to the gutters. Democracy works on the assumption of distribution of power, but the culture in the African setting makes it so much so that power congregates around a few individuals. For instance, you have a president, you have a judicial system, and you have a parliamentary system. It is supposed that these are three distributed nodes of power. But what we see in many democratic, in quote, African states is that these distributed powers always find a way to submit their powers back to the strongest man in the room. And so with that, you have that you are not getting the so-called dividends of that democratic system, but that democratic system limits you from forming a critical consensus. For instance, if you look at your nations, you will see some policies that have been debated for years, some policies that have been debated for aeons. In Nigeria, for instance, no civilian administration since 1960, when Nigeria got its independence, has been able to fundamentally alter the structure of Nigeria. All Nigeria's major structural adjustments were conducted by the military. There's a reason that is because our form of democracy gives our presidents absolute powers to steal. But when it comes to making structural changes, they are not able to form that consensus. And so when we begin to look at what is happening, for instance, with our brother in, is it Chad? Is it Chad or Niger now? I think it's Chad. When we look at what is happening with our brother and the pace at which he is going, we see that what is helping him is first the ethos and the qualities of the leader, and then the form of government. If that leader was to be democratically elected, by now he will be talking about re-election. By the way, by now he has to be playing parliamentary politics. And those efforts takes away the power of consensus. So what I'm saying is that Africa had unique governance systems that congregated powers, yes, as it is, for instance, in some parts of Middle East. But that congregated powers allows you to make quick decisions. So if the leader wants to be good, he will be really good and he can deliver results in such a short time. But also in flip side, if he wants to be bad, he will deliver bad results in such a short time. But we have seen throughout history that those leaders who are long-term, who you don't have any space of removing democratically, anytime they become bad, the system finds its way of spewing them out. But now what we have is that we have incremental doses of bad governance, but we keep on stealing ourselves, calming ourselves down because of the assumption that after 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, depending on the number that is specified in the constitution of your countries, that will get them out. But when we know that we are stuck with this person and there is no democratic window and he doesn't deliver, check throughout history of Africa and see what has happened to such leaders. And I am saying that democracy is working for Europe. But before democracy worked for Europe, they had monarchical systems that helped them give their citizens that economic emancipation. That monarchical system helped give Europe that enlightenment of the mind. And when you have given people economic power, and when you have given people intellectual power by educating them, then they will topple those monarchies. Africa, we are taught to forcefully tear down their monarchies, to tear down that ability to make quick decisions. And we are given this chaotic system that allows our leaders to steal, but it doesn't allow them to make indeed concrete structural changes. And now the citizens are not near economically or educationally where they are able to make that their democracy to work for them. So as we look at Africa, if all the countries adopt democracy and it is delivering on their promise, well, let them continue. But if there are exceptions, for instance, like our brother in Chad, not Chad now, Niger. Sorry, what is his name? Burkina Faso. I'm so sorry. The AES, I keep calling them one name. Burkina Faso. If our brother is doing so well in Burkina Faso, we should not be quick to recommend to him to conduct election, as I began to hear. We should not begin to quick to tell him to open up the spaces. We are seeing that although you will say that Burkina Fasans Burkinabes rather, do not have liberty to choose. But today, those of us who have liberty to choose, they seem, and the empirical evidence is there, that they are enjoying better systems. So I am talking about a form of government that Africans, especially young Africans, must own our own assumptions. To look at our populace and ask ourselves, do we have the economic and the educational wherewithal to make our democracy work for us? If not, then we can find systems that will help us. The administrative structure is the next thing. I hear our sister talking about Cameroon. And you see, the size of what today is called Cameroon is, for instance, bigger than if you put France and Germany together. So I allow you to look through Europe and imagine a scenario where you put Germans and the French in one country and you force them to practice democracy. So I'm saying that there are identities that compete with each other. Now you can't have a monolithic society, but the old African states structured their empires in a way that there are identities that are too difficult to manage. So Europe, for instance, after many iterations, have broken up into smaller administrative entities. But then they now have a bigger EU entity where they trade amongst themselves, where they do joint policies, where they do joint immigrations. But yet, even at that collective, they retain the autonomy to make political choices. And so if you look at majority of the conflicts in Africa, whether it's the one our sister referenced in Amazonia, you see that majority of them have linkages to conflicts around identity management and resource control. And so because of that, it is easier for us, those young people coming up, now we can forgive our leaders. But for those of us coming up, we must now critique those assumptions. Is Africa's administrative structure helping us to grow? Or are we to break down into smaller entities and negotiate an ACTFA or an African Union where we can do business within ourselves, but yet small enough to retain those minute administrative structures that allow for healthy competition and for easier groups? The last I will drop here before I leave is on winning. As we have gathered here under the mentorship of PLO, I want to remind fellow young people that there are others who have gathered also, like us, our age, who have gathered under the mentorship of drug barons. As we listen to PLO, as we read the books that are recommended to us, as we do the trainings, as we attend the conferences, as we gather because we want to see our society transition, there are many people who are congregating and they are taking mentorship classes from drug lords. They are taking mentorship classes from criminal politicians. They are learning, they are indeed studying them. And so for every generation, you will see the good, you will see the bad, you will see the ugly. Now, having inherited so much from the works of our fathers like PLO, who has indeed, if not for people like him, there will be no mentors. We will think that everybody is a corrupt politician. We will think that all the politically exposed persons are like that. There will be no role models. But if we have indeed inherited these huge opportunities to learn from people like him, we must now make sure that those of us who are in this room will fight and spare no cost to make sure that we take over the governance systems of our respective countries. As we are learning good governance, others are learning bad governance. And if we allow them, we will come back to compete. And if they win, our people will suffer. I will close with this story of David, Goliath, and lion, and the bear. Some of you may be familiar with that story. Anytime you see Goliath sitting on the throne, the people will suffer. As Africa is currently structured, I look around and I see that Goliaths are sitting in our parliamentary seats. Goliaths are sitting in our government houses. And Davids are on Twitter complaining. And Davids are on television complaining. And Davids are issuing press releases. For our generation, we must pay every cost to make sure that Davids are sitting on the throne and that Goliaths are put to where they belong. Last point. Whenever a lion charges at David's sheep, that lion will not live to tell the story. If you are called into leadership, and I believe that all of us here are called, and that is why we are connected to PLO, it is indeed a responsibility that we must take seriously, because elections or leadership have consequences. If the right people are not in authority, people will die, as indeed they are dying from preventable healthcare issues, insecurity, poverty, and a whole lot of other things, mismanaged resources. And so the question, are we going to be on Twitter, whereas the sheep under our care, the lions, the jackals are tearing away at them, and we are complaining and calling for press conferences? My charge to fellow young Nigerians and fellow young Africans is that whatever is required of us as we are preparing for governance, those who are preparing to steal even more than those who are currently stealing, those who are preparing to misrule even more than the current mismanagers of our economies, that we must wrestle them to the ground, put them where they belong, and be indeed that light that Africa has been yearning for. I thank the leadership of PLO Foundation for this incredible opportunity. I sincerely believe that Africa's morning is at hand. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chima Christian. That was inspiring and insightful. Thank you very much. Indeed, is the democracy in Africa developing or delivering us? I love that call to leadership. We've been reminded how we're all called to leadership and that leadership has consequences. Often people will look at the title that is in the title itself and not the responsibilities and the consequences that come with it. Thank you very much. I see the comments. We've seen one from Moses Abanga saying, hope this meeting is recorded because you are loaded and deep. Indeed, our political and agricultural mentor. So now I'll call upon the audience for questions, suggestions, and opinions before we proceed. And we're now looking at how we keep asking ourselves as the leaders of today. I understand we're no longer leaders of tomorrow, we are leaders of today. As the incoming elected leaders, what are we doing? How are we looking at the progress of democracy? Are we going to be here calling for conferences? Or are we going to be here taking responsibility for our posts and our responsibilities? Okay, let us see. Lillian William has a question. We also have a question from Comrade Senior Prince Salifu, Comrade Mulonda, and Comrade Anthony. So if we can hear first from Comrade Lillian. Comrade Lillian, please feel free to speak. You have been unmuted. Followed by Comrade Senior Prince Salifu. Please proceed.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you so much, Comrade Mona Lisa. It's been a wonderful outing. I'm enjoying every bit of it. And I want to thank our speakers for making it a wonderful one for us. Like we rightly said, that for one to be a leader, one should have a creative impact in the issues concerning one's country, peradventure Africa as a whole. To Dr. Chima, I'm Lillian, Dr. Princess Lillian Williams from Nigeria. I'm based in Canada, and also a passionate African who have the interest of Africa in heart. A lot of things has been happening in Africa. Let me take my country, Nigeria, as one, which has been giving me aches. Yes, I'll say aches because I have sleepless night when I remember what is happening in my country, Nigeria. Dr. Chima, let us look at it from your own point of view. You've spoken well, and we've been trying in every ramification to see that sanity comes in Nigeria, where people will be liberated, even when their voice or their voices is not being heard. They speak, a lot of us speak, a lot of us struggle to see that people's pains are being removed. At this point in time, what do you think a layman can do? And do you think it's still brought down to the political leaders in the society that do not want to adhere to our callings or do not want to listen to us, to our plight, because we're feeling the pains of an ordinary citizen in my country. And a lot of things is been happening there. So what do you, at this point in time, what do you think can be done? Is it the voting system that needs to be restructured? Because we talk about it, we say we are the problems to our own problems. That's the citizens. So most times, because we condemn the political parties, and when it's time for election, you still see some people, after giving them peanuts, they still go back to vote in these people. And when you talk, it looks as if you're not being heard. Things are not working. What do you think we can do to sort all this? Thank you.
Admin, should I go ahead and answer the question, or do you want to collate all the questions because of time?
Feel free to respond.
Oh, beautiful. Dr. Lillian, maybe because you are a doctor, you also ascribed doctorship to me. I am not. I prefer to go by the name Chima. I'm not a medical practitioner, and I also don't have a doctorate, but I appreciate the question, and I appreciate you for being here. First, there are preconditions that must be met before democracy will work. Democracy and the ability to choose. That franchise, the person who does not know where his next meal is coming from, and the person who is not educated enough to go beyond appellations of ethnicity, to go beyond appellations of religion. I'll give you this instance in a minute. When I was working in the political bit of a media house, any day we are discussing issues like, oh, this senator slapped this senator, you will see a lot of callers calling to our programs because they understand what we're saying. Someone slapped another person, so they can have an informed opinion about slapping. But anytime we are discussing the budget of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the numbers are passing way over their heads. They don't even understand what we are saying. So when the populace hasn't been educated enough to appreciate the various indices of measurement, to say, I'm looking at the economic policies of this leader versus that leader, they are not looking at it, they're looking at the ethnic background. They're looking at how much so can he give me. So because of that, the Paul Collier, and I agree with him, says that that kind of democracy will not work. The second is, so what should the ordinary man do in this kind of situation? Because the system we have had is always producing people who don't have the best interest of the people, then the people must fear nothing but fear itself. When we tell people to come out and join us to demand and insist that good governance must be the only deliverable, they say, oh, but what if you come out The government officials will kidnap you. And I ask the question, for instance, those of you who are not Nigerians and who have peace and security in your countries, pardon us, but in Nigeria, and this is not to blackmail Nigeria publicly, but in Nigeria, there is something called kidnapping for ransom. And there was a report released 2 months ago to show how many Nigerians that are being kidnapped and to show how much is being generated in ransom payments. And so if I'm kidnapped by kidnappers, for instance, and I'm kidnapped by police officials, kidnapping is kidnapping. Indeed, if I am kidnapped by government officials, I will at least be kept in prison. I will at least be fed at least once a day. People who are kidnapped by the real kidnappers are kept in forests, are chained to trees. No food, no Medicare. Kidnapping is kidnapping. And if we don't bring about good governance, if we don't struggle to put in the right people, the kidnapping will continue to happen. So people today are still dying because they can't get oxygen, mere medical deliverables from our hospitals. And so you don't have oxygen in your hospitals. And because of that, people are dying. People are dying in Nigeria because they can't afford basic anti-malarials. Yet, if you tell the person to come out to protest, they say they will kill us. But this year alone, preventable healthcare issues, including malaria, has killed more people than the government can kill if we come out to protest. So I tell young people and I tell our fellow people, are we not sad enough? Are we not hungry enough to get to that point where we will see that indeed that the cost of bad governance is more expensive, more costly than the any price that is required of us to pay to bring the right people in authority? I will end it at that, Dr. Lillian, and I hope that I answered your question.
Thank you very
Mona
much
Lisa,
for that response. Yes,
due to
can you hear me?
the time factor, I will
Yes,
suggest
yes,
that
yes.
we go to the next speaker, Comrade
Yes,
Osman Ture. Then we
we'll
will
proceed to do
now
so.
have full time for, yes.
All right. Thank you very much to all of the people in our audience that have questions. Please, if you can, write them down. We'll return to our questions and answers. In the interest of time, let us hear from our final speaker of the day. So let me take this opportunity to call upon another Afrocentric development leader and practitioner, the esteemed Osman Torre. Comrade, please feel free. Take the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And to yourself, to the rest of the team, it's definitely a pleasure for me to be here with all of you today. And, you know, to be part of this conversation. But obviously is to say a very big thank you to Professor Piolo Lumumba for that incredible intro and the video that you've played from his part, and to my dear Queen of Africa, Dr. Susan Tata, an amazing lady that have contributed to the spotlight for all of us in one way or another, and to the other colleagues and comrades that have also given an incredible testimony and presentation on the topic that we are discussing today. So just while seated and listening to the previous speakers, I coined these 3 questions that I would like to ask in the very beginning of my presentation. And that is, what has this unity cost Africa? And the second one is, why do colonial borders still define us as a continent? And the third one is, why, or are we truly, ready to build a united Africa as young people? So the reason why I pose these 3 questions are things that we will delve on as we go into the conversation. all of us, in one way or another, are coming from countries, we're coming from areas, we are coming from regions, we are coming from districts, we represent tribes, we represent religion, we represent political ideologies. But a bigger picture is when we look at each other, we don't see any of these things written in our faces. But what is evident is we are looking at a fellow African brother. Now, for me, the conversation force is how do we look at Pan-Africanism beyond just a conversation, beyond just a discussion, but a way of life? Understanding that the term has both philosophical, historical, political, economic, and social backing. That this is when we wake up every day, our everyday activity. How do we incorporate that spirit? Because that is the fundamental. The reason why the term came was built out of resistance. Some people of African descendants, some people of Africa believe that this continent has gone through a lot of inhuman treatment. It has gone through a lot of exploitation, and it has been artificially divided without paying attention to its reality, and therefore opted to bring an end to that marginalization. So it is evident that the term reminds us of that history. And I do recommend, as the previous speaker mentioned, that the history of Africa is not defined by the 80s or the 90s or the 1950s struggles or the colonial struggle, but went beyond. This is not just the cradle of humanity, root of civilization, unquestioned. So therefore, it is evident that we discuss how the struggle of these founding fathers can relate to our present reality. Now, should Pan-Africanism just be a discussion that we have here, or should it just be a conversation among retired civil servants in our villages or in our gatherings? Or should it be a youth-led movement, a youth-led conversation, and open up to an intergenerational one for guidance for very few, but to incorporate it in our everyday life? And this means we are not just talking, but we are incorporating Pan-Africanism in our business, in our governance structures, and in our social life every day. Now, as an African, we are talking about attending an African unity with Pan-Africanism as the bedrock. But how do you attend this if we are not doing business in that spirit? Generally, there is an advocate for a continental free trade where Africans can trade among themselves. Just like we are here interacting, we can meet in e-commerce platforms and also do business. But the bottom line is, how do you do business as a continent that produces very little? You're more of a consumer market than a producer in a free trade structure. So even if we do business among ourselves, if we don't really pay attention, we might end up just being element that help other parts of the world build their economies better, because we are not trading using our own products. We are not trading using our own currency. We are not trading using our own platform. And Professor Lumumba made a very good emphasis in the presentation on what we face is the fifth industrial revolution. What that means is the industries of the future and big businesses will be determined by the power of data and the power of numerics, code, and also genetics. Basically, data and genetics will guide how future markets look like. But we are foreseeing that in the near future, at a time when Africa has zero infrastructure to harness the data and to harness that genetical revolution. Now, what that means is when we do business, we're using a platform that we don't own. When we do research, we're using a platform that we don't own. When we interact in conversations like this, we are doing it in a platform that we don't own. So somebody somewhere have access. Somebody somewhere controls the data, and somebody somewhere controls the narrative. Now, the question is, what happened with the power of information? What happened when people controls your data? What can they do with it? Now, a very good example is China Africa had what they call the China Africa Think Tank Forum, founded in 2000 towards 2002, 2001, 2002, when China was just opting to join the World Trade Organization. Now, what that meant was researchers in China, in Africa, were put together to conduct joint research, to travel in Africa and into China, to guide on policies, to guide on entrepreneurs for business ventures, but to coordinate a China-Africa relationship. Now, 23 years or 24 years down the line, China is Africa's biggest trading partner. Almost everything in our homes have an element of China. And almost every mineral resources in Africa with zero value addition is going to China raw. What that means is China have benefited from being a part of China-Africa think tank that put African scholars to guide their market or capitalist to identify what Africa needs and therefore utilize that information, that data, to penetrate the African market in a way that it has never happened in history. So that is one example. Then we move forward as young people. One of the biggest obstacles to Africa's unity today is the political will. Nobody wants to lose anything for the sake of African unity. Everybody wants to be in their comfort zone. Every head of state wants to be that big man in the show or in a room. Now that has cost us a lot because when Africans meet in Addis Ababa to discuss about issues of Africa, everybody speaks differently on things. They will jointly pass resolution this, resolution that, but implementations are zero. As we speak, it's gonna be hard for average Congolese to do business with Rwandese. As we speak, it is hard for the people of South Sudan to do business with Sudanese. As we speak, it is hard for a country like Cameroon, as our dear Queen made mention of the Ambazonia region, to do even business among themselves. These are realities. And having traveled the length and breadth of the African continent, what we have is not a problem of potentials, is not a problem of resources, is a problem of direction, is a problem of deliberate leadership that guides the young people of the African continent. On a very fateful day, join me in a flight in one of the West African countries en route to Addis Ababa was a young woman who is a graduate and had a dream of owning a salon in her home country. She boarded the flight and was seated right next to me with a smile. You can tell, with excitement, because this is her first time boarding a flight. Then she even started the conversation by asking me to take my seatbelt. So I just did with a smile back and then asked her where she was going to. And she said she was heading to Lebanon. With her were 20 or more other young girls. Now, this is someone with a university certificate, someone with a skill in an industry that is worth billions of dollars. But her big dream of becoming a change maker, her certificate that she had acquired in school, in university, she had left all and narrowed it down to being what? A caretaker in a home in Lebanon. That is one story of Mariam. But that story can be related to millions of young Africans, those who are either dying through the Mediterranean Sea, but of similar calling. They are skillful individuals. We have teachers who are running away from the teaching field to join boats. We have future engineers. We even have military men and women who are leaving their jobs, running outside of the continent. So the time to redeem this is not just a conversation. It should be action. We have to be led by a vision, and we have to be aware that if we lose track in this time and moment, this continent is doomed. Because what we wait for is past. And nobody cares about us. We have to know that. Nobody cares. What matters is resources, whether it's Africa's people or Africa's minerals. No one cares beyond that. And whether it is in the Gambia, whether it is in Senegal or anywhere else, recently we have seen a trend of young people, like in the Sahelian region, whether it's in Burkina Faso, in Niger, in Mali, but deliberate young people who said, we are done with the conventional approaches. We are going back to our roots and we are redefining a pathway. And this has yielded dividends. We have seen progress. We are seeing a sense of direction. And we must not slow down in that approach. Like the Gambia, like many other young African countries or young Africans out there who live in countries where politicians continue to suppress them, continue to steal their future and the future of your children. This is the only time you have to take up such responsibility. And whether it is in business or in politics, but we must build interest. We must build interest in businesses. We must build interest in the power of manufacturing. We have to manufacture. We must build interest in the power of acquiring relevant skills that matters in the 21st century. And we must build interest in unity. That a small economy like the Gambia is nothing in the absence of African unity. But again, unity beyond our borders, the Africa's diaspora. Most of our brothers and sisters who live beyond the continent don't have a voice in their respective places they call home. They don't vote in their national elections. They are not represented. But they do send money to these countries. Like in the case of the Gambia, more than half of our GDP, remittances. Gambians, people, lovers of the Gambia, sending in money in country amounts to over $700 million in 2024. Now, if people can contribute that much in an economy that they have no voice on its policies or the people that manages such resources is a problem. Then two is independent. Africa's sovereignty lies in Africa financing its own development. With proper mobilization, with innovative financing, with maybe impact, diaspora bonds, and the list goes on, Africa can mobilize resources to fund its development. But until and unless that is attained, until and unless we stop relying on conventional financing like the World Bank, the IMF, we cannot determine what development priorities we should undertake as a continent. So as we are here having this conversation, in conclusion, I just want to charge all of you that beyond these conversations takes action. It starts with your colleagues. It starts with your neighborhood. It starts with your village, your town. But engage and participate. Be a part of something in business, socially, or politically. But be a part of something. And only that, the likes of Professor Lumumba can sit down and relax and have trust in the future of the continent, because they've been doing this job for so long and it is tiring. They have to be sure that if they sit down and relax, the journey continues and African liberation can be attained. And only then the conversation can be different. But I thank you all for putting up this, and I look forward to the questions and answer sessions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Torre. A huge round of applause is going around in this current moment for that insight. Indeed, political will, deliberate leadership, and our own vote in a free trade structure are going to take us there. Beyond these conversations, we have been asked to start where we are. So in the meantime, do we have any questions, suggestions, and opinions based on this very conversation? Okay, so I see a number of hands. We'll just take 2 questions for now. Then we proceed to the video documentary, and then we can proceed with the Q&A after our final remarks by Comrade Guma. Let me ask Comrade Dako Derek and Comrade Said Mohammed to take us through these questions briefly. Comrade Anthony, Stephen, and Alesta, I acknowledge your raised hands. Please, if you can, type in the comment section and in the chat box so that we do not lose track of those questions. Right now, in the interest of time, Comrade Dako, please feel free to ask. You have been unmuted. Comrade Said, please ask after Comrade Dako. Thank you very much.
I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I'm very excited for being very late, but I want to appreciate Uma Turai. It's shared here, and for me it's like an insight. I have just small question before I give my insight and the question here. So you can also respond to this one. So thank you. First of all, as we start, I want to tell you to start where we are, to start where was what when we touch so much. Because I'm so a
sorry,
leader.
Comrade Dako. You seem to be breaking a little. I'm not sure whether you have your device further away from.
You get me?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
Okay, I was saying that I'm very excited as also a change maker in my country. I'm from South Africa Republic, whereby I was an activist, and I'm also align my ideas with the ideology of Fellow Lumba Foundation. And for me, it's a pleasure for being here. And what Umar have said, what Umar have said is very good insight because we African we must be engaged. Today we must invest more in our education, whereby point out the aspect of education skills, having skills, because standing for Africa, we need powerful skills. We need so powerful commitments again because we are now about failing and we are about raising again when now coming together because there is something I want to ask you. So how could we do with strategical mindset can we collaborate with our brothers and our neighbors to understand our potential, how it is important to come together as unity because unity and solidarity is the very core problem of Africa. Today, Africans they don't want to come even our debate of delegates, when they go to the debate, it does not mean nothing. So my question is that which strategical purpose or strategical mindset or strategic orientation can we use and apply in order to foster the collaboration, unity, and solidarity? Thank you. I'm very pleased of being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade. So your question is the strategic mindset that we can apply to foster unity and solidarity. Is that so? Okay. So let me also quickly get the question from Comrade Said so that our speaker can respond. Comrade Said, please proceed.
Hello, everyone. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay. Firstly, let me thank you for offering me this great opportunity. Let me start with introducing myself. My name is Said Muhammad Said. Originally, I'm from Sudan, North Sudan, but right now I'm based in Uganda as a refugee. So, Usman Toure, I was able to know you through very simple. That the first question, you see, right now we as African youth, we are suffering a lot, and war is taking place in Africa. For example, in Sudan, in Congo, and Rwanda, and also it may take place in South Sudan. So, what are the events and actions? I'm asking about our duties as youth in order to prevent this war from happening in our country. Just want the duties of us, or our duties as Africa. What should we do? And secondly, if you never mind, I would like to be on direct contact with Your Excellency. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Said. So his question is our duties as youth in our current environment, considering the challenges that we're facing in our multiple African countries. So quickly, if we can, please type in your questions in the chat box. I'll quickly take in the question from reparations and Abubakar. So we can omit the introductions for now. We'll revert, but just quickly go to the questions. Reparations, please proceed.
Habari Queen and Asante Sana. Thank you for everybody that has shown up on this platform. I am so happy that we have come to realize that we must take action. The same love and support we took on the streets on the 30th of April in support of Ibrahim Tuareg, we must back that up. We have to understand that our love and our support we showed for him on the streets will make him a harder target. So we often ask ourselves, what can we do as an individual right now to make sure that Africa wins this war? Because look, we are in such a very serious situation that if we're not careful, what happened to us before will be a comedy to what will happen to us. The youth of Africa, as our son just said, excuse me, I forgot the exact country, but the diaspora gave 700 million in support of that country. When our great leaders rise up like Ibrahim Tuareg, look at how the West is after them. So the way the West is always eliminating our good leaders, we must also find a way to take care of our bad leaders who are destroying Africa. We understand that America is powerful, but America already drew the sword when they offered you all those armored trucks and vehicles, knowing the power they have and the intimidation they have. Do you understand? So they've already drawn the sword by giving you those things. So the youth of Africa, the diaspora, support the youth. These bad leaders that are collecting things from America and endangering our unity at such a precious time as this in history and in life, right? Let's make their lives very uncomfortable. These leaders, these corrupt leaders of Africa, play in our face too easily. The youth of Africa, rise up, follow them everywhere. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of youth. Yes, we've done demonstrations, but we have to be strategic, right? Hundreds of us, all the corrupt leaders hundreds of youth of Africa be in front of their houses. The diaspora support this movement by funds of mobilization, giving them food, giving them security, giving them water. If our leaders, right, are at war with us, abducting us, right, we must flip the script. Imagine if within a week we mobilize ourselves, we organize ourselves like how we are always able to do. And like 24 of these corrupt leaders suddenly also disappear, and their children and their family members who enable them and support them also suddenly disappear. A lot of them will start fleeing. Africa, we must learn to handle the bad leaders. We are too relaxed. We are far, far too relaxed. And the tools of slavery, yes, have unfortunately made a great people slow. That is why we are just sitting there. All that we have done in support of Ibrahim Tuareg, take it to the next level. Make these African corrupt leaders, for example, the bordering countries of Burkina Faso, Ghana,
Thank you very much for that. I'm not sure whether it was a technical error, but thank you very much, Reparations, for that speech and opinion towards the conversation. So, in a turn of events, we will be able to share the documentary on our pages and the mentees group so that we give time for questions and answers. I can see about 10 hands raised, meaning there's still room for conversations. And let me call upon all three speakers present to be able to address these questions. So in the meantime, let us get responses to the three questions, or two questions rather, that have been asked to Mr. Osman Torre. That is strategical mindset that we can apply to foster unity and solidarity, as well as our duties as African youth in maintaining this unity and solidarity. Thank you very much, Reparations. Indeed, we do not want the past repeating itself. And in that note, we're going to now give the mic to Mr. Osman Torre to respond, and then we open the floor to our audience for questions to all three panelists. Thank you very much. Please proceed, comrade.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think a question was raised on the strategy. So yes, exactly. I think what we need to first do is to normalize the conversation about Africa, about its past, and also for its future. And normalizing it means also getting it to the people that it matters, which is the young people. Then beyond that is the movement, something like PLO Lumumba Foundation, which is in over 30 African countries as we speak. The strategy should be now, how do we use such a movement and platform to ignite, a citizenry conversation where we are not just talking as representatives of different countries, but as African youths as a whole. And with the guidance of such a platform, then obviously we can inculcate certain belief, certain ideas among ourselves, and obviously take it up to the next level. And then there was another, I think also we have a language barrier, but sometimes we have mediums through which we exchange, like we are doing here. But then for those of you in East Africa, it's even easier because you have Swahili that Kenyans, Tanzanians, part of Uganda, part of Rwanda, part of Burundi, stretches down to even part of South Africa. Even in Zambia, some people speak. So you have a medium already in that part of the world. Now, for our case in the sub-region here, it's a bit different, but what it means is we're not trying to erase anything. There is strength in diversity, and people can represent every tribe, every language, and still promote an African identity which stands out. So these are conversations that we need to have. And then I think there was another question on duties, especially in conflict zones. I think we should all be ambassadors of peace. Youths are usually the most affected demography in every conflict because you don't have 70-year-old, 80-year-old people in the forest fighting. No, it is young people like me and you, our young women, our young children who are the most vulnerable people in this time. They are involved directly and even indirectly. They're most of the time affected. So how do we now use the little influence we have among our peers to have, that message of peace, something that promotes unity and everything? And another thing is accountability. Sometimes, people don't or are not account for some of their actions or inactions, especially with certain African governments. But how do we now call out or call for issues of justice and reforms in key African countries is a matter of concern that some people just do everything and get away with it and nobody question. So it's high time for people and youths to build more interest in who does what and what are some of the repercussions that comes next. And I think that those are the two questions that were raised, and the other one was a comment from our dear auntie or mother, I would say, a reparation, a very good one, and I thank you all for that as well. So I look forward to maybe other questions later on. But just if I happen to miss them, I'm trying to run into another discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
And a very quick one to my dear brother who asked the question on conflicted zones and youth's duties. I know he also shared his details and would like to connect, and I believe Raza will take note of that and do the connections accordingly. So I thank you all.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much. As he has mentioned, he'll drop his contact details with the Africa Mentorship Program Coordinator, that is Comrade Razak. So in the meantime, let us proceed with the Q&A. Let me ask Senior Prince Comrade Salifu to proceed with his question. Comrade Salifu, you can proceed, followed by Comrade Anthony. Okay.
Okay, so I think
yes, I think we can proceed. Yes.
Yeah. So I will suggest we give an opportunity to those who have not spoken yet. So maybe Comrade Paul Omolo can come in, and then Alistair Beggar.
Thank you, brother. And I want to appreciate you guys for giving me this opportunity to speak. My name is Polo Molo, and I'm from Kenya. I want to commend the work that our comrade PLO Lumumba is doing, bringing the African youth together. And I want to commend the work that everyone else is doing here. I had the comments and the presentation from our brother Toure. And what he says basically is we need action. And action in this sense, we have to realize that the political class will never act for the basic reason that they are already in power and they are too comfortable or too busy politicking that they cannot see what we need to do. We cannot also depend on the organizations that are set up because they have their hands tied with the people who are keen to keep us behind. So this leaves us, the people, to take action. And therefore, I would urge us that organizations like the PA Foundation should find a way to evolve into action, social and political action for Pan-Africanism, to bring the youth together and form strong action points in which we can be able to not just share ideas, but actually do things that will make us realize the Africa we want. Here in the East African region, like I've mentioned in the comments, I've started an organization called the Kingdom of Kush, and I know to awaken a hungry people, and we have a lot of hunger going on the African continent. So the first move is to be able to put money in people's pockets, that the little that we have can be used to make more. So once we have money in our pockets, then we can be able to come together to do action. It's not just about exchanging ideas, but it's acting. And the first point we need to act is on how to put money into people's pocket through group economics. We are also bringing together investment chapters in which Africans can create opportunities for themselves, and the African diaspora can come in and bring investment. These are the kind of actions that we need. Thank you very much, and sorry for taking a lot of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Omolo for that. And I've seen you've written something down in the chat box. I think those that would like to engage more can proceed to do so. Now let us hear from Alesta Abega. Please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Mona Lisa. And I hope so. She should be Mona Lisa and all those who are here. It is a privilege to be here. So, though I arrived quite after the conversation had started, but I was able to listen to, I think I found Madam, the lady Tata who was speaking then. And then I've also heard from Christian and Torre. So hearing all these conversations, what I'm hearing is mostly is about people continuing to speak. But for me, I think because the people have been thanking Prof. Lumumba so much, and it is good because we have heard what he has been speaking so much about Africa. And that was more of speaking. Now I think we should be shifting from the part of speaking into what are now the practical things we can do after we have been speaking so much. And like we should be driven by some things, because like for speaking for now, we have the African Continental Free Trade Area, and also we have the Africa Agenda 2063. But you realize that most of the things that are being spoken here, perhaps we are trying to make more new things. But if you take your time to go and follow through these declarations and aspirations that have been put across, like the Africa Agenda 2063, you realize that these are the things you can start right on, instead of trying to come up with the new things and make these things that have been put across to be more practical. That is what I can speak about. And so the last thing is about what there's somebody who was speaking about. We should be starting industrialization. Yes, we should be starting industrialization. But then we realize that how do we then do that? This one is now the thing that we should be speaking about now on the practical part of what are the things, instead of now shifting away from the talking and having this, because you realize that even if you speak here, not everybody's here. the larger community is not here, but these are just a few individuals who are here who understand there's a problem. But how do we make sure that we are people who do not even understand what is this? So we should be going more into the society and telling people, making people to understand that we have a problem here. Then this is what we are doing to be able to curb the problems we are going through as Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I will now allow one last question. Let us hear from Comrade Anthony, then we can have our speakers respond.
Yeah, thank you so much, Comrade Mona Lisa. And mine, I think, is a two-way question. Yeah, one is directed at Comrade Osman Ture and the other one at Comrade Christian Shima. Yeah, part of the question is Comrade Shima spoke about an army of good and an army of bad, saying as we are seated here and discussing on how we can better our continent, there are also those who are seated and discussing on how they can continue to loot the resources that our continent has. So my question is, you being a speaker or having presented on governance systems, which one do you think can best work for Africa, considering the fact that democracy that doesn't seem to be on our side? A lot of people have spoken about different governance systems. I've heard Joshua Maponga speaking about United Kingdoms of Africa and so many other people. But which one do you think in your own way, or is there a Pan-African governance system that we can rely upon? And then to Comrade Osman Ture, I think the first time that I heard about you was the time where you said you do not want to go abroad and study. Instead, you want to study within Africa because you believed that the problems that Africa is facing, the solutions to those problems can only be found in Africa. And so when you went, I think should be in Rwanda to study on development issues, what are some of the strategies, maybe to take you back again on the strategies? What are some of the strategies that you have come up with or that you have learned over the years through your study that you think can be incorporated in these governance systems of ours in Africa that can be used to develop Africa? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that question. I will now hand over the mic to Comrade Chima and Comrade Osman to respond. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And thanks for the incredible opportunity to be here. You don't want to look at Africa as a monolithic society. I don't think it will be appropriate to do that. Within the Africa, you will see a lot of context, you will see a lot of nuances, and each must own their own assumptions and design a system that works. When I study conflicts around Africa, what I see is that many of those crises, as I said earlier, are identity-based, and many of those crises are also about resource control. I think that we can better manage ourselves. Right, as you saw that Europe was dealing with a lot of issues like we did. First war, well, it wasn't a world war, but for lack of, that's the generally accepted term now. They were fighting their wars, they called it world war, but no problems. But you saw that when they broke up into smaller entities, so each became easier to manage. When you look at the cantonment system of, for instance, Switzerland, you will see that they've designed something that works. But then these are all at the realm of thoughts. The ones I see that are the easiest pathway to this is for Africans, especially young Africans, to demand for the kind of governance they want. Yeah, we can have young military officials seize power, and then if indeed they are good, they can use that power for good, as we've seen in Burkina Faso, and that's why the West feels threatened. That's a pathway, and that's a very easy pathway to go. Because if you have a leader, a young person who is determined and in the military, and I don't believe that in our countries that we can't find such young people who can look at what is happening in their countries and dare it all, risk it all for the sake of the people and for the sake of the land. But again, if you produce military officials who are as bad as our elected political figures, you will end up in the same place. So there is emphasis on quality of leadership. Then the second is about participation of the people. Democracy confers a lot of responsibilities on the people. And as at today, despite all attempts to revive our people, they are not able or at the place where they can appreciate our cause for them to take up their democratically imposed responsibilities seriously. On the flip side, as I look at, for instance, maybe pick any country in the Middle East. Yes, it's the development of that. There is the participation of the people, but the pace of development is set by the leader. And so I would love to see a situation where if you say that you are a leader, you have the rights, you have the wherewithal to make the decisions that you think will get out of the doldrums. So that if you are good, you can have the opportunity to maximize your goodness. And then if you are bad, we now see, oh, we entered one chance and we start plotting how to remove you. So that would be my recommended approach. So I don't know what name you want to call it, but I think that Africa can be better split into smaller entities that have political autonomies. And then within those political entities, we can break down those artificial barriers, allow for free movement of goods and services, allow for intra-Africa trade, and then allow for joint policies at the AU level. That would be my idea of the kind of Africa, so that Ambazonia can stand on its own. Northern Cameroon can stand on its own. Then they can meet at the AU level to trade. The people don't have issues within themselves, but the political system is tilted towards that some people feel oppressed, some people feel marginalized. And until you take out those feelings or the contributors to those feelings, which is political domination and all of that, all our preachments about unity will continue to fall on deaf ears. I think I want to stop it at that. Thank you so very much for the great opportunity.
Thank you so much, Chima Christian, for that. Let us proceed to hear from Comrade Osman on the question that has been posed.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those brilliant questions, and to my dear brother Anthony and also Alester. So yeah, starting with the first questions on production, because I don't usually discuss, more on what we do with business from a personal standpoint, but 90% of my time is dedicated to a business that does production. And it is only on very few occasions that I appear on platforms like this and talk about the general engagement that matters for all of us. But beyond this, my everyday work is on production, is on a business that we have built from Gambia, Senegal, and now we are doing export to countries like Nigeria and also in Ivory Coast, in Abidjan, and Lagos in Nigeria, and as well as in Abuja. So prior to just joining this call, I was in a meeting with my brother, who is currently in Nigeria. Now, the reason why I said that is a line that all of us should look into is because production is the future. We have all seen what happened when the war in Russia-Ukraine broke out. Logistics was affected, and African heads of states were crying. In fact, had to do a whole delegation to go to Russia, to go to Ukraine and negotiate for the grains to come in. These are things that we can produce from home, and what is stopping us from doing so. So that's one of the things. And obviously, it's a business venture. But first, people, we have to have a conversation, an honest ones for that matter, where we are not just talking, but something that leads to action. And the 21st century Pan-Africanism should not be just some history lessons, but that is why I insisted that it should be a walk, like a way of life. We incorporate Pan-Africanism in our business, and that's economy, social, and political. Now, the other thing on my experience in Rwanda, yes, I opted to do my master's in Rwanda in 2020, and it has been an incredible journey for me, beyond even expectation. And one of the things that really works for them is that there is some consensusness. Rwandans agree to what they have. Rwandans are building Rwanda. They have a leadership that the public trust and they rely on. And these have given them dividends. One of the best things that you can see about them is the level of organizing, or the way in which they are organized as an economy and as their governance structures. Some of you might have heard of the Rwanda Development Board, an entity that coordinates all investments and businesses that comes into Rwanda. One of them, like one of those magical institutions, you can sit in your home and register your business, and the next day you are at work. So for me, such is an approach that you don't find, in many African countries, and that have attracted not only Rwandans into business, but even non-Rwandese. Someone like myself, I have a business in Rwanda beyond studies. But then, it all comes down to that level of readiness. There is a general vision that Rwandans subscribe to, and the driver is Paul Kagame, who they entrusted with it. Now, can we say the same thing in every African country that we are coming from? Do people driving our national development agenda really have the public legitimacy? By that I mean the people's acceptance to exhibit this. In some cases, that is not the reality, and it has retarded almost everything, because development is a process that works in the hearts and minds of the people, and not really driven by just one individual. There is one vision that is communicated and one vision that is trusted by many, and every individual have a role to play in. So if you wake up in a space like that, where you can go back to 94 and see how your country had been, and then look at your current status, and then see yourself as a part of a process that's going to deliver the new Rwanda, it's positioned in the next 10, 15 years. As a young person, you can't do anything other than relying on such a movement or such a vision. And that is why one of the things that you will observe as well, for those of you that are very frequent with going in and out of Kigali, or maybe interested in Rwanda's politics and its development stories, you will get to know that we have many young people like ourselves, like those on this call, who hold authorities in Rwanda. They are drivers of institutions. And the only reason they are in those positions is because they've acquired the world-class skills that is needed. I've seen very successful Kenyans in Rwanda, Sudanese, Ethiopians. And if you sit down with any of them and have a conversation, these are some of the things that they will remind you. Now, the bottom line, or the next thing, would be, can what we saw in Rwanda be exported to other African countries? You cannot take the people of Rwanda on holidays to Nigeria to fix Nigeria. I'm not saying Nigeria needs to be fixed. For those of you that are Nigerians, don't feel offended. But what I'm trying to say is it takes a vision, and that vision comes from a people. It has to be from the roots. People have to believe in something. People have to have a vision that they align to. In some African countries today, if you ask, what is the next topic for your election? No one can tell you. Because our elections are not guided by development agendas, but rather our emotional affiliation to people. So these are things that, yes, if experience in Rwanda has given me anything, is an understanding of these dynamics. And obviously more to that, its development, its structures, and how it has uniquely tailored out something that is very good to them. And yes, such development can be attained by any other African country, but obviously have to have a context. And I believe it's in very short time, we will be on a ground to launch some of this initiative that would not just be a conversation, but actions that leads to change in the Gambia and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you very much, comrade. Thank you very much. I'm sure that has definitely soothed most of the people that had questions in that line. Now I'll let Dr. Susan to respond to the question on the types of government or suggestions in that light. Doctor, the floor is yours. Please proceed. Thereafter, we'll have closing remarks from Comrade Guma Lumumba. Thank you.
Okay, once more, thank you, Comrade Mona Lisa, for giving me the floor. Thank Usman Toure for him. He's my president of the New Africa since yesterday and tomorrow. I mean, particularly in the youth leadership. So just to go quick to the answer on the type of governance, we have to be realistic. We have to stay in the moment, not only in the past. So I would say, and I will repeat the words of Professor James Small, who says, study your history, it will erase the mystery. Okay? Study your history, it will erase the mystery. So it means whether we like it or not, we cannot go back to live in the system of governance of African democracy that we had, because democracy is not a Western thing. Democracy is an African vision. The only type of democracy that we see now is just like every other invention that was invented by the Africans and now has another format that has been tempered with to suit species, ideologies, continent, systems, and so on. But when we go back to study our history, we ask questions. How did Mansa Musa become the richest African? What kind of system did he use? Not just the richest African, but the richest man on the planet ever till today. So when we study our history, we would understand that the system of business, of doing business, or African social system, like the former late president of Tanzania said, the African social system of business is fairness. If I win, you win. If I don't win, you don't win. So exactly, that's just the point. And that's why we call it Ubuntu. That's the social system of African in every level, whether it is spirituality, whether it is politics, whether it is whatever form that we practice. It has to do with the balance, the fairness in life. If you look at it, it's because we are the original people of the creation. Because if you look at nature, it's the same thing. Nature gives you what you give to it. If you abuse the environment, you're going to get catastrophes. Okay? So, a human being, from a perspective, not just African because of our color of skin or where we come from, is the ethics of fairness in everything you do. So, whether you are African and you live in a system where you abuse, where you lie, where you cheat, where you do things differently, it doesn't matter whether you are in Africa, doesn't matter what your past was, it's going to come back to you. That's on individual basis. And I think that's the African spirituality system, which we are still trying to define. Now come to the present. In the present, we've had systems and different schools of thought and different races that has meddled with the development, the history, the identity, the education, the spirituality, name it all, of the African. So how are you going to navigate in all this? Today we cannot say Muslim religion came from the Arabs, so we don't want it. We cannot say Christianity or Euro Christianity came from Europeans, so we don't want it. We cannot say Buddhism comes from, today we have China, they're doing Kung Fu, Confucius in Africa. So for you as an Africa is to identify yourself with your own identity. The first thing, I think Brother Chima said it, identity is the currency that rules the whole world. We here in Europe, a German identify himself with the qualities of his race. If you hear German cars, German made this, German this, so they talk about durability, they talk about hard work. They don't care whether that money that he's gonna earn looks African, looks China, looks American. In as much as he knows I get to work, I feed my family, I feed myself, I clothe myself, that is development. So I would just conclude by saying whether we define democracy, whether we define what kind of system, Africans learn to work. We're living in a system where we think people always owe us everything. Yes, that's our history. That's the present. That will be the future. Do you want me to tell you stories about European history and culture? So we need to wake up. While we are studying who we are, we need to move forward and very fast. Like I said, we must really be fast. You know, somebody once made a statement, and I believe that the problem of the world system, not just Africa, is the intellectual class. That's the problem. Because what we're discussing here, the African mother in the African market doesn't give a damn what we're talking here. She's just making money. The young child or boy selling water on the street doesn't know our jargons here. All right, I'm sorry for the word, not that I'm trying to, disrespect what we're doing here. But what I'm trying to say is it's time for us to wake up and just study the systems. Usman said something. We don't know if what elections are. One thing I know and I've learned, we don't know the systems that we operate in, whether we are African or non-African or on the continent or in the world. It's a global system. That's why no matter how we change the presidents, if the system is not changed, it is the same. It's like you take from one pocket to the other one in the same trousers. So study the system. We don't say everything on the show, like Usman said, but there are a lot of things that we discuss when we meet face to face under the African tree. You need to learn how to trick the system. You need to know the system, how they operate. And that's why while we are talking and complaining and blaming, they're just people making money out of even while we're talking. Look at the systems on which we're streaming. We've been streaming now for how many minutes? And somebody is just there earning money from our talks. You understand? So we need to really wake up. Action means like we said, be practical. How much do I earn a day? And then number two, let's start thinking, do we need an African Youth Bank? Let us just create an African Youth Bank because money is everything. Money makes a revolution work. Money makes a business work. Money influences everything. So we need to put our mouth where our money is. Money, when we have a youth bank, youth developmental bank, instead of us wearing brands and doing just only some kind of crazy things with our money, and we intentionally say we want to come up with a youth bank, we can buy railway roads on Africa. Even in the world, you can buy anything in China. So if maybe we start by not just spending, drinking, doing some kind of crazy things with our money, but we are consequential and we have a youth developmental bank. So we save our $1 each time, even though we have to enjoy and do other things, but we save our money. Now we can hold that money like Brother Chima and Brother Usman was saying, and buy a company in China, and buy a company in Africa, and buy a company in America. People go after money. Whether it's Trump, whether it's who, you show them money, they run after you like crazy. So let us be consequential. Youth, wake up. Like the brother said, too much talking, too much lectures, we need it. Yes. But once we finish talking now, the next thing we should be thinking is, how much am I earning from today? If your bank account, you're saving, whether you have a saving or not, if you're not earning something every day, even if it's $1, you need to question yourself. It doesn't matter. In as much as you're not killing somebody, you're not destroying somebody, you're not doing every other thing, please consider today. And that's how I started to say, if you don't know what works for you, Pan-Africanism would just only be to you like a political movement, which is not. So I thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that pleasant response. Indeed, we have had quite a commendable session. We've had insightful, educational, empowering, and enlightening information from all our speakers. Special thanks to Dr. Susan Tata. Special thanks to Mr. Chima Christian and Osman Torre, as well as our mentor, Professor Lumumba, and everyone here present. Thank you so much for being with us once again. This was the PLO Africa Day celebrations. So in this moment, we'll now take closing remarks from one of our very own, Guma Lumumba. Please, comrade, if you're with us, go ahead. Once we're done with the closing remarks, we'll take our break from today. Once again, I hope we have not only heard what our speakers have said, but we're going to reflect, connect, and act on all these points that have been shared. Thank you very much. Comrade Guma, the floor is yours.
I think I'm clear, Comrade Mona Lisa.
Yes, you are.
Yes, revolutionary greetings, great sons and daughters of the motherland Africa. Personally, the person who is speaking is, my former names are Guma Brian. But I think as Mama Susan Tata highlighted, we are in the spirit of rejuvenating and regaining our true identity as Africans. As Comrade Mona Lisa highlighted, yes, I love the name Lumumba. And I think I'm going to change my names legally from Guma Brian to officially Guma Lumumba because of our two great heroes, that is Patrice Emery Lumumba from Congo and our current mentor, Professor PLO Lumumba. So that's it. That's who I am. I'm from the PLO Lumumba Foundation Uganda chapter. I'm a proud mentee of the PLO Lumumba Foundation from our country chapter. So once again, I want to add the voice to our beloved moderator, Madam Mona Lisa Kangalu, to thank on a great notice our cherished leader, and beloved mentor, Professor Piol Olumumba, in his absentia. First of all, he's the reason why we are here today, why we are celebrating this day, the PLO African Day, Africa Day. So it's really an honor engaging with all of you comrades from different countries across the continent, and even our brothers and sisters from the diaspora. For example, one of our own guest speakers, that is Mama Susan Tata. I also want to thank our head of the Africa Mentorship Program, Mr. Razak Aoudi. I think he has been the one who has been spearheading this program and organizing most of these engagements that we always come and link up. Thank you so much, Senior Comrade Razak, for always making these wonderful engagements happen. Mama Susan Tata, we really can't thank you enough. You have been with us in the struggle, I think, since now around like 6 years back, being part of the Pierre Lumumba Foundation, doing everything through the Pan-African Daily TV, through giving those wonderful sessions and mentorship series. So we really thank you, and also highlighting the precious information that you shared with us today. And then to Comrade Chima Christian from Nigeria. Thank you so much also for highlighting a number of issues, and mostly concerning governance. Personally, it was my first time listening from you. Yeah. And I had made some little research about you. I was also surprised that you are doing well in issues concerning agriculture. So this is the way to go forward. One of the reasons we have as the youth is that we think that in this modern era, we can't go back to our villages and do practice beneficial agriculture that can help feed us and also get for us something like an income. We are really colonized mentally, thinking that the jobs we get are supposed only settle in this framework of being in offices. But yeah, sure, we have seen very many people, billionaires, big people doing well through agriculture. And I really thank you for that. Thank you so much, Senior Comrade Chima Christian from Nigeria. And then lastly, one of our guest speakers, Senior Comrade Osman Toure from the Gambia, our gallant son of Africa. Thank you so much for also expressing profoundly the revolutionary teachings to us, we as the young suckers. As a colleague, I think I've forgotten his name, I think he's called Saidi, as he highlighted, some of us who are young, we have really got the inspiration from some of these senior colleagues in the foundation. I know some of us here might be new, but as you keep up with the journey, you will know some of them. And Senior Comrade Osman Toure is also one of them. We have people like Joramu Nkumbi from Tanzania, and very many others who have been risen up and given the platform to shine by this foundation. So we can't really take your time for granted. Thank you for leading us in this wonderful session and showing us the way by creating your own business ventures. It is really showing us the light as the young suckers who are going to come on board. I think, and then Comrade Mona Lisa, thank you so much for you. You have always also been there for us. I met you firstly in, I think, the one of also the programs of the foundation. That is the Pan-African quiz competition that is always organized annually by the foundation. And since then, we have really moved a steady, fast movement. And we have really played our part. So, comrades, all of you, brothers and sisters, once again, I can't say a lot. We have really discussed a lot, but I want to end with giving you this quotation from our own leader and mentor, Professor Piolo Olumumba. I had some discussions we are hinting on the aspect of action. What are we doing? What are we doing? We are speaking a lot. We need action on ground. But Professor Lumumba, whenever he sets out this, I'm always energized. And that is the struggle, the African stroke black redemption and liberation struggle is intergenerational. Comrades, as we are going to exit this platform, let's not always forget this, that this struggle is intergenerational. And what do I mean? For example, we are in the 21st century currently. The last century, that is the 20th century, we had our ancestors, the Kwame Nkrumahs, the Marcus Garveys, the Webb Du Bois, and very many others, as we all know them. They did play their part. And of course, cutters of the colonial and efforts, neo-colonial efforts, we didn't achieve our dream of uniting as a continent. But here we are the sons and grandsons of these great ancestors. We are here, we are alive, and we have the opportunity that we are also playing our part. So in every responsibility, in every role, doesn't matter that you should be a president of a certain country, wherever we are, some of us personally, I'm still a student at my university. I know some of you are older than me, doing a number of specific jobs or other entities, other ventures. We can keep spreading the Pan-African word, Pan-African information. We can keep teaching each one of us whom we go and find. It might not be me, it might not be Professor Lumumba, it may not be Comrade Razak or any one of us here, but that person might be whom you can enlighten with the knowledge, might be the person who might lead us on the front line. So let's not get demoralized and discouraged that we might not see the real fruits of the liberation during our lifetime, but let's be encouraged that we have played our part in our lifetime. In this 21st century, I know most of us will automatically rest with our ancestors in this century, but the next century, let these people, the young suckers who are coming up, be inspired by our efforts that we are currently doing. Maybe them or our grandchildren, they will finish up with this liberation. Thank you so much for listening to me, comrades. Hotep. Thank you so much, Mona Lisa.
Thank you so much, Guma Brian. Indeed, we have gotten so used to Guma Lumumba. If you do so, you will be confirming what we've always said. Thank you so much for representing the entirety of the mentees. Thank you so much to everyone else that had joined us, our audience that are currently live on multiple social media pages.